If you're watching this right now and you haven't hit the like button, Billy, get on it. Bug your brother. Tell him to do the same.
Let's start it. Okay, we're rolling.
You want to do 3, 2, 1 just for my brain?
Yeah, let's do it. 3, 2, 1, blast off.
Every single week, Adam and I comb through all the interaction that you, the grounds crew, the listeners put into the walk-off universe. We really appreciate all the interaction. It keeps us busy and definitely lets us know that there are many, many passionate Blue Jays fans out there. So we go through our Twitter. You can DM us there at Walk Off Podcast. You can also send us a DM on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. Join the Discord. You can do so by reaching out to us and we'll send you a link. And of course, the Patreon. A priority bump, if you will, for your comments and questions. So we do have a few from our Patreon members.
By the way, if you're a member of Patreon, but you're just watching things the old-fashioned way on the old YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever.
And there are a few of them doing that.
I encourage you to at least once or twice tune in to the Patreon version because we do like a 20-minute pre-show dry run. And you get maybe a little bit more of a uncensored opinion on some of our responses to some of these absurd comments and questions. So I think it's worth your time, honestly, to sit through this. And I always wonder when people are watching, they get to see like our first attempt at a joke. You know? And
normally,
then we do the same joke during the
mailbag,
mailbag, but we've modified it on the fly and we've adjusted our punchlines and our tags. So
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
We're far more
come to the open mic version of Mailbag and get the rough version. Okay.
I love that you brought that up because I always thought the folks that were watching it on YouTube were just like, I can't handle that 20-minute preamble they do.
That might be the case. Maybe that is the case. Maybe the people on Patreon are like messaging each other and are just like, guys, I found a shortcut. Just go straight to YouTube, wait an extra couple hours, and we can skip through all the BS off the top. But jokes on them because here we are, though, 3 minutes in, still BSing.
Well, I will say, like, we really do appreciate the Patreon for a few reasons. Number one, it's not like there's a ton of costs attached to the podcast, but you know, there's probably over $100 a month between Adam and I with Zoom and subscriptions and stuff like that to keeping up to date on shit. So, the Patreon allows us to break even, which is truly appreciated when we put in all this effort. So. Yeah, especially to our wives. So we thank everyone who is a Patreon member. And if you are on the fence, there is a good reason to join Patreon. And for the most part, that reason is that Adam and I are busy. We don't just do the podcast for a living. And there are times when, let's say, we sit down with a Davis Schneider, right? AAA guy, one of the top prospects in the Blue Jays system. And we just don't get that interview out right away. We talked to Davis about 3 weeks ago, and I think we are going to try and get that out tomorrow or Thursday or whatever. But
I know, and what I want to add to what you're saying here, that sometimes we have to sit on an interview for a couple weeks because we don't have time to go through and edit it. And I know you're probably watching these interviews and thinking, well, how long could that possibly take? Like, do you not just hand it off to a blind 4-year-old and say, figure it out, because that's what the results look like? And I appreciate all the positive support from everybody. But no, I am doing my best, and it is very time consuming. This is definitely outside my skill set and technical abilities. So the fact that we're able to do this at all is a act of God.
Yes.
But yeah, sometimes we got to sit on it, and you can get those on Patreon immediately. No waiting, and this raw, unedited.
The same goes for even Mailbag. I know Mish Beer on Twitter. I forget her name on Mish Beer Marie on Patreon. Either way, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters. I mean, Johnny's another one.
Look, she just deleted her subscription.
Yeah, there we go. So Johnny's another one, and I know that, like, yesterday, right?
And it's Mish Beer on Patreon, yes.
Yeah, we had the interview with Craig Ballard of Locked On Jays yesterday. And yes, it was out in the afternoon, but I know that both Mish and Johnny watched it before we even got it up and out on YouTube. So again, if you are wanting that content right this second, Patreon.
There you go. Speaking of Johnny,
Yes,
Johnny Eaton, dropping an album.
That's right.
June 30th.
End of the month. Johnny Eaton, Canadian kid, Ontario boy, walk-off listener and member of the grounds crew. If you want to support one of our own here within the community, Johnny Eaton.
I'll read this this tweet. My new album, Here's the Thing, drops June 30th. It's been a great labor of love with 18 different musicians joining the fray. Produced by the brilliant Gareth Audenhole. Pre-order here, blah, blah, blah. A link that won't be clickable when I'm just reading it. So there you go. We'll put the link in our show notes if you're interested.
Yeah.
Some good Canadian content. There you go. I'm excited for that because I've been, not going to lie, I turn on the old Johnny Eaton YouTube channel while I'm editing a lot of these videos, and I just have some background music. So
there you go.
There you go. I'm genuinely excited for that. Okay, you ready for Mailbag?
It is a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon kind of day. Very excited to get to this. We've got a ton of interaction today. Of course, you can always reach out, like we said, on Twitter and Instagram.
I think we've already done this.
On Patreon, we did all of that. So let's get into it, buddy.
Did we do all?
See, this is why and by the way, I've done this intro like 3 times because I started in the Patreon version of this, and yes. Adam was like, well, hold on. We have some stuff we need to do, and I haven't told you any of the comments yet. So then we stopped and did that. And anyways, round 3. So now we're in.
Third time's a charm.
We do our best here on the walk-off to weed out anyone who might just have found the channel and is interested in the Blue Jays by making this the longest intro on the face of the planet.
You know what it does? It breeds tolerance.
Yeah, thank you. We're just contributing to the world.
Yeah, contributing to the world. Here we go. Okay, first off, let's just start with the fact that we got dozens, literally dozens, between the comment section and DMs on Twitter and stuff like that of love for the Craig Ballard episode yesterday. Yeah. It was just a little bonus one we did on Monday. Good to talk to him. Of course, he's been super busy with his own podcast, the Locked On Jays podcast. So if you love Craig Ballard and you want more of him, go watch his show. There you go.
It had been too long. It had been months since we had Craig on. And I mean, it's kind of funny how this community has happened and you go a couple weeks without. It's like Garth is taking a break from even just watching the Blue Jays right now. And I'm like, how's Garth doing? Like, what's it? He's out on a boat now. We don't get to talk Blue Jays with him. Like,
I know it's weird. It's a good community. So, okay. Again, I don't know if we talked about this in the pre-show yet or not, but we had a live show in Calgary. It went like gangbusters. Really good time. Nice to put some faces to some comment section names, which is really cool. I know Jane was out. Lauren was out.
Yeah.
Taco time. It was a really good time. Anyways, we do have a live show coming up in Edmonton in July. Do you know the date for that?
I do. July 13th, which is a Thursday. It's the Thursday after the All-Star break. There is no Blue Jays game. So to fulfill your Blue Jays quota, we are going to do that. And we are dead set on uniting Edmonton Blue Jays fans. We did that in Calgary. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, man. It was magic. Like I haven't felt that way. Listen, I know your response to this when I tweet or when I texted it to you was like, you're like, this is a little sad. but I was like, man, I haven't felt this way about a live show in like probably over 10 years. You know, like how
long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
So I've been a stand-up comic for 15 years. I've been doing it professionally. Come September, it'll be 7 years that I've been a pro stand-up comic, and that's how I've made my money.
So after the live show, here's the text. You said, buddy, amazing work yesterday, man. I feel so good about what we just pulled off. And I said, agreed. And then you said, I felt like I used to, I felt like I used to after stand-up shows. And I said, aw, that's kind of sad. Just that you don't have that, like, nervous excitement, butterflies in your tummy feeling for comedy anymore, because it's just something that you're so good at. It's like second nature. You don't need to think about it. Whereas
I don't
you were
know if it's
visibly
something.
stressing.
Yeah. I don't
Before
know
the
if it's
show.
something I'm so good at, but I think anything. Listen, I don't know the number, but my guess is I've been on stage over 4,000 times. You do anything that much and it takes the nerves and the excitement away. Don't get me wrong, I
Yeah.
freaking love a good stand-up show. Like I love killing for an hour and getting off stage and
But let's
feeling
be
that
honest,
rush. But
most of your paid gigs is just being a corporate shill for
yeah.
Rogers at their staff parties.
Yes, exactly.
So, and that's a little, it deadens you inside.
But
just kidding, of course.
it's why I'm such a good corporate shill for Rogers on the show.
Exactly. They don't pay us for the podcast, but they pay us for their corporate comedy events. So there you go. I am kidding. That is wishful thinking. Rogers, we are absolutely available for your Christmas, happy holiday party, whatever.
Everybody out there, we are fully available for your Christmas corporate parties.
Definitely. If you're in Alberta, we're available for your backyard barbecue party.
That's true.
But we're not going to fly across the country.
Put us
for
in,
one
coach.
Of those.
No.
Okay. Let's.
I know that sounded like a joke, everybody, but by the way, if you do need a comic, think of us, you know?
Yes. Yes, for real. Or yeah, if you just work at a company that's doing a staff party at the end of the year, that's what we do. So that's something we got to get better at promoting, though, is the real way we make money. So there you go. Reach out. Okay. Comments from the live show. So Taco Time said, good inaugural live show, gentlemen. I would encourage anyone able to get out to the Edmonton show to go. It's nice to meet you guys in person, and maybe you can convince Joel to attend the Edmonton show.
Hey, Kami has guaranteed he will be there. Sean Lacomber, guest and friend of the show, is going to come out. I think we've got him convinced to maybe even do a little preamble off the top.
By the way, Sean Lacomber, funny on Long Toss, hilarious as a actual stand-up comedian.
Truly one of the funniest guys in Canada, and we're not saying this just as buddies. It's you just need to watch him to know.
You can attest to the fact that, like, as a comedian in Canada, there's no such thing as fame, right?
I can attest to that. Yes, Adam.
Like, other than getting a sitcom on CBC,
and even
there's
then,
no such thing as a household name.
Yeah,
you're either Jerry D and Russell Peters, or you're one of the funniest people in the country anonymously.
Exactly.
So
if you're not Jerry D or Brent Butt or Russell Peters, exactly. Best of luck with your career.
Best of luck with your career. Hope you like podcasting about baseball. All right. Let's go. Lauren replied to that Taco Time comment and said, was that you in the back of the room last night?
Which I just love that comment so much. Just a room full of walk-off listeners, and they're starting to figure out afterwards who they are online.
It's something that I think we need to learn from, and maybe do things slightly different in the Edmonton show, and just maybe try to engage in a way where it's like, hey, you might have people literally sitting right beside each other who message each other all the time online, in Discord.
All the time, yeah.
Or in the comment section, and have no idea that they're sitting right next to their online best buddy. So it's I'm not saying Lauren and Taco Time are best buddies. Obviously, they're adversaries, but the potential is still there. Okay. Bunch of comments here from Taco Time, and they're pretty good ones.
Before we get into that, tickets for Edmonton on sale right now. We're going to pin the top comment as the ticket link on YouTube. We're going to have the link in the show notes for the audio listeners. Let's get Edmonton Blue Jays fans together. The code to save $5 off the ticket price is walk off. All right, we'll move along.
Very good. So it's from Taco Time. I'll just read all these, and then we can address them one by one.
Okay.
Will Springer move down the lineup now that he's made it to number 2 on the leadoff home run list? He's never catching Ricky Henderson, and it would be selfish to continue leading off when he could be driving in runners in the second half. This is something I've wondered about for ages. Will he move down once he gets to that number 2 spot? Sean Lecomber is like a happier and more mentally stable version of Garth. Hilarious comment and shots fired. I do not think you can read anything into the Jays' 2 out of 3 from Oakland, and Vlad's last home runs have come off of a shortstop and the A's, not exactly Garrett Cole. Yusei Kikuchi's pitching great. I'd argue number 2 in the rotation, pitch clock helping him focus. And if Manoah comes back for Canada Day or at any point and crumples, his MLB career would be all but over. I'd let him play his way back to the bigs. So a lot to get to here, Scott.
A very interesting take in a couple of those. Number one was Springer. I think we have been saying this at least for a year, that George Springer truly does profile as a guy who drives in runs at this point in his career. And I'm not taking anything away from what he does at the top of the lineup, all right? Because he is one of the best leadoff men to ever do it. The numbers show it. I mean, him hitting that home run off the top of the game there to become the lone holder of second place for most home runs from a leadoff man. Like that's not anything to sneeze at, you know, like that is incredible. And that is something that no one might catch him, you know, like he may hold second place forever. But it is a very good point about not catching Ricky Henderson. And maybe it is time for Springer to look inward and recalibrate who he is as a player. He still has plenty of speed. He still looks good in the outfield, but maybe those Springer dingers would look better in that 4-hole or the 3-hole when there's some guys on base and all of a sudden those solo home runs become 2-run or 3-run home runs. It's something I wouldn't mind seeing happen. Not that there's actually a prototypical leadoff guy on this team, although with the way Whit Merrifield is playing, you maybe could get away with Whit at the top of this order.
So, yes. I do think Ricky Henderson's number is reachable. So Ricky Henderson, number 1 record, 81 leadoff home runs. George Springer, second place right now with 55. So he would need 26 home runs to tie Ricky Henderson. 27 would put him number 1 all time. He got 9 last year. 7 the year before. His single season record, 12 leadoff blasts for the Houston Astros in 2019. 39 over 7 seasons in Houston. 5 seasons, he could do it.
So for George Springer to do this, he turns 34 in the offseason.
Yeah, he is old. I was thinking he was like 31.
That's
34 is a stretch.
Yeah, like it's going to be to keep the pace he's at. And if he does keep the pace, it just logically makes more sense for him to be a little lower in the batting order. And
34 sucks. Never mind. I take back my take.
This is one thing that I think the Blue Jays as an organization will let Springer decide if it happens. But it may be something they sit down with him over this next offseason and bounce off him. Maybe Bo Bichette's in that number 1 spot. Who knows?
All right, so that's the George Springer topic. Yeah, I mean, probably makes sense for him to move down now that he's got it. Maybe after the All-Star break, make the move. I don't know. Kikuchi pitching great. Is he number 2 in the rotation?
Not on my list, but there is an argument there. I think Jose Barrios is our number 2 at this point, but
I think Barrios is our number 2 as well. I think. Well, here's the thing. There is an argument.
There is an argument
number
to be
1.
made.
And then I think Kikuchi is behind Barrios. But then I think it comes down to where you value Chris Bassett and the absolute liability that he is against left-handed bats.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can all agree against right-handed bats, he's probably our number 2.
Yeah.
But against left-handed bats, he's probably our number 5.
Yeah.
So I would say Kikuchi as our number 3. I would listen to that argument. But again, It depends on how concerned you are with Chris Bassett's splits.
That said, yes. Kikuchi, there's not any negativity you can throw at that man. The guy has been a complete revelation in 2023. Totally. And thank God with what is going on with Alek Manoah. And I know that that's kind of the next subject here, right?
Yeah. So if Manoah comes back and folds his MLB career, if he comes back and crumples, his MLB career would be all but over. I'd let him play his way back to the bigs. So I think that's a strong opinion. Mm-hmm. If he came back, I think and is bad. I think the season is over. Like if you have to send him back down again, who are we kidding? We're not expecting him back up for the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of making him play his way back to the bigs.
You brought it up. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You brought it up that this is how that they treated Nate Pearson in 2023. It's not how they've always mapped out Pearson's development, right? Like they were giving him every opportunity and then he just couldn't stay on the field. Manoah, definitely a different animal, and you're going to need to map him out for his personality and what ails him, which we don't really know what it is.
But like
reports say reports
pitch in Vancouver. Let's see, like a 1 walk per 9 and a 12 K per 9 rate in Vancouver, and then put him up to AA. And then in New Hampshire, let's see the same thing, and then put him in AAA. And then when he's pitching at AAA and his numbers are just like absurd, then he makes his return to the big show.
And it's going to be interesting to see what that map for Alek Manoah is. I mean, he is still in the pitching lab. He is not in a game scenario. He has yet to play in a game scenario since they sent him down. And at this point, I strongly believe rehab is needed. And I think that is the pathway they are going to take. And I'm with you, Adam. I think that they do every level. They maybe you can get away with starting him in Vancouver. Forget the Florida State League. I don't think that that's necessarily the Florida Coast League's not something that you need to bother with, but get him in Vancouver, get him feeling right. He's going to be in front of a very vocal crowd who are going to be incredibly excited that they're seeing the number 3 Cy Young voted pitcher for the American League last season in Vancouver. So you're going to have some fanfare. You'll want them to dominate. You'll want them to move up to AA, where they have currently the organization's most depth for starting pitchers in Semro Burse and Chad Dallas and Ricky T. So he joins that rotation and would need to perform. And I'm with you, buddy. Let's make him force this Blue Jays hand. Right? Let's make Ross Atkins look at what he's doing when he's in Buffalo and go, well, this is ridiculous. I think he's 100% back. Let's bring him back to this Blue Jays starting rotation.
Now, we did get one comment. I don't know why this stood out to me so much, but Raps Love 9873 commented and said, "Who are we to say he's not ready?" And I've been saying this for Alek Manoah's entire career. I mean, when they brought him up for his MLB debut 2.5 seasons ago, I was also in the camp of, please do not bring him up this fast. And they did, and I absolutely had to eat my words about it. So I would love to be just as wrong.
Oh, this God, time I would love to be wrong. I you know what? And this is the thing, is if they did something crazy, like bring him up before the All-Star game, which I am so against. But if they did and he saw great success, like fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about being right if it
Nope.
means this team is going to score more W's because of a move they make. So
there you go. Okay. Speaking of not caring about being right, we had a comment on, I don't remember which video it was earlier in the week, but I brought it up on Long Toss because it was just kind of rubbing me the wrong way. So Oliver commented and said, Ross Atkins, ? Aaron Hicks for free sure would look nice in our outfield. Speed, defense, right-handed bat. He's a switch hitter, but I get it. He does also hit right-handed. And then Mark weighed in and said, I've been wanting the Jays to add Hicks since the Yankees released him. Anyways, these comments, and there was a few other people that replied to this comment, but I mentioned it on Long Toss, and I used the word delusional. And I just want to clarify things because Mark commented on Long Toss and said, to say that the acquisition of Hicks is delusional is in itself delusional. And then goes on to list numbers of Aaron Hicks and how phenomenally above average he is against left-handed hitters, whereas Kiermaier and Varsho are both not good against left-handed hitters. So I will concede the fact that, yes, the 25% of the time that there is a left-handed hitter or left-handed pitcher on the mound, Aaron Hicks technically would be better than Varsho or Kiermaier. So again, I just wanted to maybe not necessarily walk back my comments about using the word delusional. I want to clarify, though. Having interest in Aaron Hicks is not delusional. Delusional is more directed at the idea that, again, Ross Atkins is an incompetent bum, and using the fact that we didn't pick up Aaron Hicks as proof of that argument, because we just get that argument all the time that he's incompetent and a terrible GM. And again, this superstar was sitting there on the scrap heap, and what a bum for not picking him up. I just mean that's where the delusional is. I'm not saying it's delusional to be interested in Aaron Hicks. DFA'd by the Yankees. I think they were paying $27 million for him to not play for them. I mean, to take a flyer on him, they would have been paying him, I think, the league minimum, like $700,000. The Yankees would have paid the rest of the bill. So, like, literally would have been for free. Well, not quite literally, but essentially, yeah, for free. So, like, I guess what's the harm? What's the risk in trying it? So, it's not delusional to show interest in Aaron Hicks. If that's what I said on Long Toss, my apologies. But the idea that Ross Atkins is, again, an incompetent
asleep at the wheel because he didn't jump at a guy who has a career OPS plus below average and was hitting 198 on the season and was just, I mean, there is obviously a very, very good reason why he was DFA'd by the Yankees, who, let's face it, are reeling.
And the rebound that he's shown in Baltimore is not exactly like, I mean, good for Aaron Hicks.
Yeah.
But
this happens every year, Adam. We saw it with Matt Carpenter, right? Matt Carpenter,
yes,
stud with the St. Louis Cardinals for years and years.
Great example.
For whatever reason, lost it, right? Wound up kicking around the minor league system, was released by the Cardinals. The Yankees picked him up, shoved Carpenter into the middle of their batting order, and he made 29 other teams look like idiots for not getting in on him. And there are examples of this throughout baseball. Every single year there's one guy like this. And so good for Aaron Hicks. But Matt
Carpenter is a great example because, like you said, this is a guy who was an all-star, was like an MVP vote getter, Silver Slugger, just like all around really good guy. In 2020, we saw his batting average drop below 200. 2021, through 130 games with the Cardinals. He was hitting 169 before getting released. Then the Yankees picked him up. He played 47 games for the Yankees, hit 305, and had an OPS of 1138. Elite. Matt Carpenter at age 36. This year, signed with the Padres, hitting 178 again. So, Matt Carpenter's 47 game stretch with the Yankees last year, I don't want to say fluke, but man, did the stars ever align?
It's probably the last
hot streak of his career. Brilliant move.
Yes.
So it looks like a brilliant move when it's really a lottery ticket that they happen to hit on.
To hit.
Right? So I'm not saying it's a perfect comparable to Aaron Hicks, but Aaron Hicks, like you said, DFA'd. The Yankees paid him $30 million to not play for them
leave
anymore.
The city. Yes.
They did that for a reason, and it's not because he wasn't hitting good enough against lefty hitters in the month of May in the 7th inning and later.
The Yankees have also the stats on how Aaron Hicks hits against left-handed pitchers, by the way. So,
again, not delusional to be interested in taking a flyer. I also agree that to get him for essentially free would
awesome.
Have been hey, why not? It's potentially an upside guy that would have cost us nothing. But to act like there was just this guaranteed, he was going to bounce back and be a 300 hitter for the Orioles. How did the Jays pass up on him? It's that's where I'm you're a little out of touch with reality. I always, when it comes to drafts too, when Ben Joyce is having success at the major league level, and they're he's really shoving it in the face of the 29 teams that passed up on him. And it's okay, but the Angels also passed up on him 4 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not I don't know. I don't know. Not quite the same thing at
honestly,
all, actually.
Dude,
but
honestly, man, it's the state of the world we're in right now in 2023. God forbid there's ever a gray area in anything. It's got to be black and white, wins and losses, and that's just not how things play out.
And I'm now realizing in hindsight, Mark, at you specifically, this might not have sounded like an apology. I meant it as one. I did mean to walk back my comments a little bit and to not say that Mark is delusional for having interest in Aaron Hicks. I mean, I spent all offseason saying, hey, we should go out and get Cody Bellinger. People probably could have said that about me too. I mean, I think he's having a bounce back season, not to MVP levels, but
Mark Ryan, by the way, is a regular listener. So it's one of the reasons we tackled this question, Mark, is in case you took it personal, Adam wasn't calling you delusional for this take, by the way, and Aaron Hicks would look very good right now on a Blue Jay.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight's 2020, and the only pushback here is that to put this on the list of fails by Atkins,
right. Exactly.
There is a list of fails.
There is
Atkins,
a list of
by
fails,
the way.
For sure.
Just Aaron Hicks isn't one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I don't think this is on a list of fails by the Yankees either.
No.
DFA Aaron Hicks.
He was god awful for them. He was brutal. He was costing them games.
So, I mean, they probably didn't see McKinley in the outfield down the road and probably would like to have Aaron Hicks right now. But again, hindsight's 2020. Anyways, let's move on to our next delusional comment of the day. And I say that just kidding. But Del Marley commented on Long Toss and said, who was the dummy that said Jansen should hit 2? The fact that nobody didn't say anything makes this podcast seem so amateur. And I love the use of a double negative there when pointing out how amateurish we are. It's just the fact that nobody didn't say nothing. This is great. So this is just such a great starting point to take your high horse stance on grammatical errors. Which, by the way, I love grammatical errors, but the irony of doing this in such a critical, rainy, poopy comment towards us. Anyways, goes on to say, how do you compare Marcus Semien to Danny Jansen? They're not even in the same class. And now Joel chimed in our comment section and said, well, since 2021, Danny has an OPS of 804 with 25 homers in 19 games. They're literally hitting exactly the same, but Danny is a catcher.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back at the last 238 games. So this is the last 2 seasons of Marcus Semien. It's 161 games last year and 67 games so far this season. So his last 2 calendar years of baseball, Marcus Semien has 36 home runs and an OPS of 753. Danny Jansen doesn't play as many games every year, so I had to go back over 4 years to get a comparable sample size. But again, Marcus Semien over 238. Danny Jansen over his last 232. Jansen has 42 home runs to Marcus Semien's 36 and has an extra 20 points on his OPS. So here's where the comparison started for me.
Yes.
Out of Danny Jansen's mouth. The influence that Marcus Semien had on him as a hitter, direct from the horse's mouth, when Danny Jansen was on the show talking with us about how he's tweaked his mindset at the plate. And the
Semien is who he brought up. Yes.
That is the impact of playing with Marcus Semien, the approach Semien had at the plate. So that's where we compare Marcus Semien to Danny Jansen. And then the fact that the numbers are arguably in the same class is where...
By the way...
It's shocking. And I understand where when you start looking at Danny Jansen, a.k.a. a power hitter, might make you uncomfortable. But those are the numbers.
Those are the numbers. And by the way, I took it anyways. When Joel said put him in the second hole, that it was tongue-in-cheek. I don't think anyone is saying let's move Bo Bichette out of the 2 hole. And if that's how you took it, that's on you. That is not on us for not stopping the show and being like, just so everyone knows, we are joking around here. Obviously, Bo Bichette's better than Danny Jansen. Obviously. Okay? Bo Bichette is our 2-hole hitter, and fingers crossed he's our 2-hole hitter for a decade. All right? But let's not poo-poo Danny Jansen just because you don't know how to look at the stats. Am I being shitty? I'm being shitty.
That you were good until the last part, and then it was a little caustic. And I'll say that as someone who also doesn't know how to look at the stats.
Yeah.
Maybe I felt attacked in that moment. Anytime someone points out not knowing how to look at the stats. Oh, look at these guys. Keep referring to batting average. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, on Twitter, James Green said, hey, Adam, Scott, love what you guys do. I know everyone keeps mentioning the trade deadline and the need for a bullpen piece, but is there a world where things could be filled internationally? Internally. Internally. Could they be filled internally? AAA?
This is a really great question. And obviously, I think when you're talking Jays fandom, we all hope that there is a big acquisition at the deadline where there's a stud that comes in and picks up the ball and comes with a track record, comes with a been there, done that. That said, if that is not the route this team goes, I will be disappointed. However, there are some very interesting options happening right now in AAA. Let's start with Junior Fernandez. Now, Junior Fernandez was picked up in the offseason, and he's got a big fastball. He's kicked around a bit because he hasn't been able to keep his walks under control. And this is an area he probably still is a little high on. However, since May 10th, Junior Fernandez has pitched 16.2 innings. Okay, he's got 20 Ks, 8 walks, 2 earned runs, an ERA of 1.11, a FIP of 2.41. FIP, just a reminder, you read it exactly like ERA, but it takes out defense and the park they're pitching in. And his whip is excellent at 1.17. So Junior Fernandez truly is a option to pitch in this bullpen if something happens. By the way, all we've seen in this bullpen so far, we saw Jay Jackson, who has been yo-yoed up and down a couple of times. Now, Jay Jackson is just an old season veteran who is here pretty much as depth. Junior Fernandez has a much higher ceiling if he can keep his control under wraps. If he cannot walk guys, Junior Fernandez is definitely going to be a high leverage option in this pen. If he can't keep his walks down, I don't think he even gets given the opportunity with this Blue Jays staff. Okay. So Jay Jackson's been yo-yoed up and down. The other guys we've seen is Trent Thornton and Thomas Hatch. Trent Thornton currently with the team. These guys have been called up out of pure necessity for innings. This team doesn't really have a long man outside of Trevor Richards who can give you 2 or 3 innings, and they had to work at stretching him out. So the other options internally are going to be friend of the show and returning next week, Kyle Johnston. Now, Kyle has been with this organization for a few years now and has struggled this season with health, but he's back. He's healthy and he looks good. He is a legitimate option to be a lower leverage guy. So as we see Tim Meza continue to move up the ranks, Kyle Johnston, although not a left-handed pitcher, pitches well against righties. And so he may get that opportunity. And then last and not least, Hagen Danner, who is probably the highest ceiling guy.
Converted catcher, 100 miles an hour.
100
Sweet
miles an
mustache,
hour.
epic flow. What's not to like? Haggy D.
And Haggy D has been with this team for 7 years now in the organization, 25 years old. He knows every single guy top to bottom in this organization. He's just a real glue guy and a fun dude. I think he'd fit into the back end of this bullpen well. I don't know if you want to pull his numbers up real quick here, Adam, but Hagen Danner also had injury problems to start the season. He had some injury problems last year. I think it's why his development has been slowed. He was added to the 40-man roster last offseason and then just didn't pitch much. So he is a guy on the 40-man roster. Hagen Danner could be the dude if they don't go out and get a proven commodity.
So 12 innings pitched in AAA this season. He's got a whip of 1.167, walks per 9, 3.8, strikeouts per 9, 10.5. So
he looks good.
Looks good.
And he was blowing up in his first game, called up from AA. So he missed the beginning of the season with some injuries, played a little in New Hampshire, got the call up to AA. To AAA with Buffalo, got blown up in that first game. And so that has definitely hurt his numbers a little bit. I think it's why we didn't bring up his ERA, but this is the guy.
His ERA is only 4.5, but
yeah, like it's not so bad. Hagen Danner, I'm excited about and have been excited about for a little while. I know you've probably heard his name a few times on the show here. Again, he's been very generous with his time and come on a couple times. And I know that he will come on again here. So those are kind of the internal options for what we could see bullpen wise. Again, I really would still rather see them go out and get a proven commodity, but we may see a guy like Hagen Danner in this bullpen come the playoffs anyways, just with the stuff he has.
Last 7 starts, if you're curious. ERA 1.86, opponent batting average 200, 10 strikeouts versus 2 walks over 9 2/3 innings. So there you go.
Love to see it. Haggy D.
Okay. Next we've got, this is a good one, Scott. Do you guys literally work for effing Rogers? Brandon Belt had been a joke acquisition. We could have had Conforto, but instead we let him go to San Fran and then picked up their sloppy seconds. But you guys constantly jack Shatkins off about this crappy signing. And I'm really censoring a lot of the language here.
Yeah.
$9 million for 4 home runs. Come on. Sad.
Oh, man, I hate this comment so much.
Well, for the record, it's a representation of dozens of people who feel this way across Canada.
I mean, okay, to start with, I have no idea why you would think this team could have had Michael Conforto. I don't know that they even wanted him. It's impossible to say that, especially with how obviously motivated the Giants were to land him after losing both Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa. Like, Mike's acting like this is operating in a vacuum here. Like,
He's
they had
acting
all
like this
these.
is a no-brainer, like going to get Aaron Hicks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, Michael Conforto, and I'm not even shitting on Michael Conforto. He's a good player. It took $36 million and 2 years to get Conforto after a season that he missed all of the time with an injury and part of 2021. So he hadn't played in over a year. I know that they went with a risky endeavor in Brandon Belt anyways. But $9 million, I don't know if you did the math on this, is almost 25% of $36 million.
I can confirm.
Brandon Belt had a garbage April, but to act like this has been a huge whiff of a signing is completely biased. And if you have decided Brandon Belt sucks and you hate him and there's nothing he can do, that's end of conversation. How do I argue with that? Brandon Belt has the best OPS on the team since May 1st. He has the best on base percentage on the team since May 1st, but not just that. He's a top 10 guy on base percentage wise in Major League Baseball. He has constantly been a lightning rod for fun in a dressing room that feels like it's lacking it. Time and time again, we watch these players congregate around Brandon Belt. Young guys like Dalton Varsho are drawn to the man. This is a dude with 2 World Series rings. This is a man with 37 games of playoff experience. Yes, Conforto has 12 home runs and 42 RBIs compared to Belt's 4 home runs. Conforto's slash line, by the way, 240. An on-base percentage of 338. And a slug of 384. Michael Conforto is a good ball player. But I just feel like this comparison is so off base and so biased. Like, Brandon Belt is doing so much good for this team that goes far beyond his 4 home runs. And if you feel that us pointing that out makes us corporate shills for Rogers, well, we're not getting paid a damn cent from them. I guess that's your take. Like,
Well,
I'm trying not to be shitty here because everyone is allowed their opinion, but there are so many holes in this sieve of an argument. I feel myself getting worked up about it.
I could tell. We did just get the news in the past week that Masataka Yoshida was under the impression he was coming to Toronto this year before ultimately signing with the Red Sox. That feels like that was the plan A. Like, I don't think the Blue Jays were ever in on Michael Conforto. I think we were in on Yoshida. Yeah. Lost out on him, and then made all those, you can call them panic moves if you want. I don't quite think panic. When you look at the timeline, it's hard to say it wasn't a bit of a panic, but it Could also be a total coincidence. I don't know. Brandon Belt signing January 10th, several weeks after the Yoshida missing out on event happened. Michael Conforto on the 23rd of December. I feel like if we wanted Michael Conforto, we would have made a run at him. And I'm not a Michael Conforto guy.
Yeah, I don't know where Conforto even came from this comment. Anyways,
I mean, look,
irrelevant.
It goes back to Aaron Hicks because yes, Aaron Hicks currently is playing good. It's like Matt Carpenter was playing good. Michael Conforto this year, 12 home runs. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, but the season before, like you said, didn't play at all. The season before that looked good. I mean, he hit oh no, it didn't look good. 14 home runs over 125 games, 232 batting average.
Missed the end of the season.
Missed the end of the season. I mean, like, again, I just keep going back to the fact that, like, this isn't like Aaron Judge, who was, like, mashing the ball for 5 seasons and then took a year off. And then it's like, oh, why didn't we take a flyer on this guy? It's like, Michael Conforto's always been kind of overrated, I think.
I'm going to tell you right now, Michael Conforto, in my opinion, isn't worth $18 million a season.
I will say the Masataka Yoshida, missing out on him, finishing runner-up, however you want to look at it. I genuinely don't know how I feel about this in terms of, like, what does this say about Ross Atkins' ability as a GM or quality of...
Because I don't mind the pivot at him. I honestly don't. I mean, this could be bias on my fact because I have been wanting Dalton Varsho in a Blue Jays uniform since last trade deadline. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that I just really liked how he profiled when he was with Arizona. I loved his defense, and I just thought he was a guy who's going to hit for 30 home runs if he gets out of Arizona. All of those things still may be true.
He's definitely on the upswing of his career, only 26 years old. The Masataka Yoshida thing, I think, is, if nothing else, a reminder that, like you said, this isn't just happening in a vacuum. There are other teams vying for talent. Like, maybe Ross Atkins did make a claim on Aaron Hicks.
You don't know?
Like,
100%.
So
100%. Man, this is a mailbag we haven't had in a while. Man, there were a lot of, like, you guys are freaking idiots.
Yep.
But we're giving it breath. We're giving it air. We're the ones that pick those ones, I guess. But
okay. Toxic positivity for a second. Kudos. Shout out. Friend of the show. Sam Roberts.
Yes.
Along with Yosfer Zulueta. Invited to the Futures game at the All-Star break.
Which is very, very cool to see. Sam
Roberts of the Netherlands. Not quite as sweet a mustache as Hagen Danner, but
nope,
giving it his best effort.
A more
really
European,
like Sam Roberts.
A more European mustache, though.
There you go. So his line this year through 14 games in New Hampshire, 4.54 ERA. The WHIP 1.18, very good. Walks per 9, 3.5. Strikeouts per 9, 8.8. Sam Roberts, man, he's like a ways away. What is he? 21
years old. Yeah, 21 years old.
But I'm high on Sam Roberts in the long term. It might be 5 years before he's a starting pitcher in this rotation.
I don't know about that. I think that Sam, we could see pushing the organization to move him up in the next year or two. We'll see.
I bet he finishes the year at Double-A.
I think so too. I like the way that they're using the way they've mapped out Sam's development, from bringing him over from the Netherlands, introducing him into the Florida State League,
He's been constantly adding velo to his fastball.
Yes, he has. He's up to 95 now. He's touching. Of course, when we first talked to him, he was just turned 18 and was touching 91, 92. So definitely has added velo.
Original Blunt Smoking piped up and asked, "No Ricky T. Has anyone heard if he's making progress for a return?" By the way, Scott, you always say piped up for Original Blunt Smoking, and I'm just making the connection now.
Isn't that clever? Right?
I never noticed it. I always thought it was just like a off the cuff, like, oh yeah, Ian posted this thing about Sam in the Discord, and then Original Blunt Smoke had piped up and just like, had an extra comment on that.
Nope.
But now I'm making the pipe connection. So
yes,
well done.
It's a very planned.
This has been a very subtle joke. Probably months before you finally got your payoff, but I am acknowledging it now that it is a clever, subtle pun, and I like it. Well done. Okay, so no Ricky Tiedemann. What's the update, Scott?
So we will end on this, the Ricky Tiedemann update. So Tiedemann.
We won't. We have one more from Patreon. But
okay, perfect. Never mind then. So Ricky Tiedemann hit the IL on May 9th. And that was because his bicep has inflammation. Okay, this is his throwing arm. He logged 12.2 innings across 4 starts for AA New Hampshire in that time before he hit the IL. So he has yet to start a rehab assignment. And according to Baseball America, this was 3 days ago that they made this statement. He is week to week. So end of May, it was actually stated that he was in line to start a rehab assignment, and then they found more inflammation and shut him back down. So this is one of those things where, unfortunately, he can't throw until the inflammation is gone. This is a waiting game. Everybody's body is different. How long is it going to take? Well, it's already taken about a month longer than they expected. So who knows? But the current, how is he doing kind of status? The status of Ricky T is week to week.
All right. Do you think we see him this year? I mean, the talk early was he could make his MLB debut 2023.
Oh, that not in a sailed. At this point, he's had 12 innings pitched this season, and we're coming up on July. The dreams of Ricky T contributing in 2023, I think that boat has sailed, personally.
I think so too. Okay, last one, homework question. We don't have answers for this.
Oh yeah, this one, yeah.
But it's a great question nonetheless from John Dick in Patreon. Says, "Hey guys, I have a question if you're ever short on mailbag questions. It's not Jay specific or even important, but it's something I haven't been able to figure out. So how the heck do you calculate batting average by pitch? As far, you see it on the ticker. Oh, Vladdy, batting average versus fastball, 375, batting average versus curveball, 111. How do you calculate that?" So he says, "As far as I know, a batting average needs 2 metrics, an at-bat and a result. Right? Base hits divided by total at-bats, there's your batting average. A single pitch, i.e. curveball, fastball, etc., doesn't constitute an at-bat. So how do we get the metric? And does it mean something different than it appears at surface level?"
So I love this question so damn much. And for the grounds crew out there that are a little smarter than we are, would love to hear the answer. So this is what I always thought that this stat meant. And I have no idea if this is correct, but I thought that you just take the total of number of, let's say, curveballs thrown to Vladdy, and then you take how many hits he got from that amount of pitches. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, there's a lot of variables there that don't really make sense. And that doesn't feel right now, although that is what I assumed it was. So for those of you out there, the bigger stat nerds, the smarter folks, fill the rest of us in.
So around 600 at-bats in a full season for Vladdy. I know it goes up and down, but let's just say 600 at bats. Let's say it's a 5-pitch at bat on average. That might be high. I'm totally just pulling numbers out of my head here. But let's say it's 5 pitches per at bat, and let's say 2 of those pitches are curveballs. That would mean 1,200 curveballs were thrown to Vladdy. And he has 175 hits, let's just say at the end of the season. If every one of those hits came off of a curveball, let's say that's all he was able to hit, that's still only a batting average of like 100.
Yeah,
so
I don't.
That
so
can't
then we're
be
way
it.
off. Yeah, that can't be the way. That can't be the way.
So yeah, I have no idea.
We are, by the way, John Dick, number 1 friend of the show, and really
is he our number 1 friend of the show?
I don't know if he's our number 1 friend. Oh,
I see what you're saying. You just saying number 1, like you're gonna do an itemized list. Number 1, comma. Number he's a friend
1,
of the show.
Friend of the show. Okay, yeah, friend of the show. And I mean,
John Dick, don't get full of yourself. You're not our number 1 friend of the show. You are just.
He ranks up there. He came to a comedy show of mine, and that's all you got to do to raise up the fandom on my scale. Yeah. So friend of the show, and a really, really good question. And we are going to do the research on this, by the way. We will try and have an answer on Friday. However, what would really make this easy on us is if some super smart grounds crew member just lays it all out for us in the comments. And then
lay it all out for us and give us a bibliography. Cite your sources. Give us a clickable link that we can just verify that you did find something more than talking out of your ass the way we usually do. Yes, we can do that. Exactly. We can just do that ourselves. So do the actual homework, cite your sources, and we'll have a more educated answer on Friday. But yeah, great question. So,
all right, everybody. Thank you so very much for the patronage. Seriously, we really love this little walk-off community that has been created, and you are a big reason why it is what it is. Feel free to join the Discord, shoot us a message on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast or Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast, and we can send you the link. Feel free to be as interactive as you would like. Drop a comment in the comment section. Hit us up with a DM, however you want to do it. Mailbag grows every single week, and we do apologize to the, I don't know, it's probably safe to say 100+ comments we got that we didn't get to. We do really appreciate you. Edmonton, we are uniting all Toronto Blue Jays fans in Edmonton July 13th, Thursday. There are no games that day. It's right after the All-Star break. So come on out, get your baseball fill. And honestly, these live shows, like, they have been blowing my mind. It's so fun. I can't wait to do it again. So please come on out, spread the word to your other Blue Jays fans. And that is one thing that Adam and I wanted to just touch on really quick before we call this a show, is that if you have friends who don't know what the walk-off is, and you're like, well, I want to come, but I don't know who to bring them anyways. We're not talking science here. You know, they're going to figure out what we're talking about, and it's super interactive and super fun. And then maybe we can get another fan of the show there too, right? So bring your friends out who are Jays fans, and away you go. Walk Off is the code to save yourself $5 on those tickets. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye, Dad.